What if the most powerful power plant in the universe was not a star? What if an advanced civilization could steal energy directly from a spinning black hole? It sounds impossible. After all, nothing escapes a black hole, right? Surprisingly, that is not entirely true. Around every rotating black hole is a bizarre region called the ergosphere. Here, space itself is dragged around at incredible speeds. In 1969, physicist Roger Penrose proposed something astonishing. If an object entered this region and split in two, one piece could fall into the black hole, while the other escaped carrying more energy than it originally had. That extra energy does not come from nowhere. It comes from the black hole's own rotation. In other words, the black hole slowly spins down while the escaping object leaves with a net energy gain. To us, this sounds almost like science fiction, but according to Einstein's equations, it is real physics. For a civilization far more advanced than ours, a rotating black hole might not be a threat. It could be the ultimate power source. And this raises an even bigger question. If harvesting energy from black holes is physically possible, could someone, somewhere in the universe, already be doing it? Hold that question. Do not rush past it. The sky is full of spinning black holes. Some launch jets that punch across intergalactic space. Others sit quieter, still dragging space-time at their edges. If the physics allows theft, silence is not proof that nobody is drinking. It may only mean we have been searching for the wrong kind of power plant. Now, imagine you are outside one of those spinning giant, not a cartoon on a poster, place. Your thrusters try to hover relative to the distant stars and fail. The vacuum itself is being whipped around. That forced motion is the first hint that this darkness can store power, and that the storage is written into geometry, not into a fuel tank you can touch. Most of us were taught a simple rule. Nothing useful comes out of a black hole. Light does not climb home from past the event horizon. Matter that fully crosses is gone from the outside world in the only sense that matters for escape. That rule is still true for the horizon itself. So how can Penrose survive? Because the theft does not happen from deep inside. It happens in the ergosphere, outside the point of no return, where escape is still possible, and the energy scoreboard can go strange. That distinction is the whole secret. Event horizon and ergosphere are not the same place. The horizon is the one-way membrane. The ergosphere is a shell wrapped outside, a rotating hole, where space is dragged so hard that standing still relative to the distant stars becomes impossible. Miss that shell and black holes stay pure graves. See that shell and graves grow workshops. Hick version did you grow up with? Roy Kerr wrote the exact spinning solution in 1963. Without Kerr, there is no modern ergosphere story. Without the ergosphere, Penrose has nowhere to work. Spin is not trivia listed after mass. Spin builds the porch where negative energy paths become allowed as measured by distant observers. Quiet non-spinning holes do not offer that porch the same way. Rotation is the condition. Rotation is the battery. Frame dragging is the name for that twist. Near Earth it is tiny, measurable only with extreme care, as experiments like Gravity Probe B helped show. Near a Kerr black hole, it becomes the weather. You are not only falling, you are being told how to rotate. Once motion itself is rewritten, energy accounting can be rewritten too. That is why a fragment can look like a debt on the distant ledger, while its twin climbs home richer than the parent. Impossible to your gut, allowed by the metric. Watch the process the way Penrose asked you to watch it. An object enters the ergosphere. It splits. Knee piece follows a path that distant stars measure as negative energy and falls across the horizon. The other escaped. The escaped piece can carry more energy than the original object brought in. The black hole pays by losing rotational energy. Conservation is not broken. The scandal is only that the distant ledger allows a negative entry for the captured piece. Negative energy here is not a horror movie prop. It is bookkeeping. Your body thinks energy means fuel and heat. Distant observers keep a conserved quantity tied to the symmetries of the spinning spacetime. Inside the ergosphere, for certain paths, that quantity can sit below zero. Capture those paths and the whole spin and mass energy adjust. Let the complementary path escape and surplus reaches the stars. Yield point, not witchcraft. Angular momentum rides with the theft. The captured fragment can carry negative angular momentum relative to infinity as well. The whirlpool weakens because you are withdrawing rotation itself. Every successful sip removes charge from the battery and twist from the flywheel at once. That is why a long campaign of extraction shrinks the ergosphere. The porch gets thinner as the spin runs down. How much can you take for a Kerr hole spinning near its theoretical maximum? A sizable fraction of the total mass energy can sit in extractable rotation. Nearly a third in the extreme ideal case. That should rearrange your sense of power. Stars look generous until you compare them with a vault that can lock nearly a third of itself into spin you might touch from outside. Fusion still looks safer. Whirlpools can look richer for minds that think in deep time. You cannot take everything. There is an irreducible mass tied to the horizon area. A floor extraction cannot erase. Horizon area theorems sit behind that limit. In classical processes obeying the usual energy conditions, the area does not shrink. You can rearrange what is extractable. You cannot mine the whole down to nothing. Infinite free energy was always a fantasy. Bounded miracle is still a miracle, and it is honest. Repeating mechanical splits can be brutally inefficient in practice. Arc capture may grow the irreducible mass more than it pays you in pocketable surplus. Deal diagrams lie. Real campaigns pay irreversible taxes. That honesty matters before anyone dreams of factories. The Penrose idea survived. The cartoon of endless free power does not. Classic rock split efficiency is also limited near an extreme spinner. The escaping piece in the textbook picture can gain on the order of a fifth relative to the parent's energy scale. Impressive as proof. Solace as a promise of infinity. Early critiques even asked whether fragments could separate usefully fast enough inside the ergosphere. Awkward for lonely rocks. Less awkward for beams, plasma, and magnetic fields. The ledger can be real while the classroom pebble stays a teaching tool. Now look at the sky again, without leaving the story. In the 1970s, Roger Blandford and Roman Znagic showed how magnetic field lines threading a spinning hole can tap rotational energy and drive outflows. Invisible cables in the drag, power climbing outward, spin winding down. Many researchers treat this as a collective cousin of Penrose. Negative energy and angular momentum absorbed at the horizon in field language. The package split with the classroom door. Jets may be the factory already running. Messier 87 launches a jet so vast it became an astronomy landmark. Sagittarius A star is quieter, underfed compared with quasar monsters, yet still a spinning, magnetized giant, about 26,000 light-years away, with several million solar masses packed into a region smaller than our solar system's orbital scale. Not every spinning hole screams all the time. Fuel, magnetic flux, disk state, and spin conspire. Prospectors would hunt spin plus magnetic luck, or a grade, not just dark silhouettes. There is a third cousin in the same family. Certain waves scattered by a spinning hole can come back stronger if their frequency sits below a threshold set by the hole's rotation. That amplification is often called superradiance. Particle Penrose, wave amplification, magnetic Blandford and Znagic. Different costumes. Yo rule. The horizon absorbs negative energy and angular momentum, while positive power escapes to infinity. Once you see the family, spinning black holes stop looking like posters and start looking like machines. Do not confuse accretion light with spin theft. Gas spiraling in can radiate enough heat and friction to outshine galaxies without any Penrose split. Disk power is real and loud. Spin extraction is a different channel that may feed jets through fields. Both can coexist. Mixing them into one vague of creates fake miracles. Sorting them keeps the battery story clean. For a civilization far ahead of us, the engineering question writes itself. Build scaffolding around a Kerr hole. Magnetic towers, plasma rail, timed beams aim to realize negative energy capture again and again. Collectors waiting outside the shell for surplus. The black hole becomes a power plant, whose fuel is rotation written into space-time. Stars still look friendlier. Whirlpools can last longer. Hunger that once wrapped suns might start hunting ergosphere. That plant would almost certainly hug the equator. In Kerr geometry, the ergosphere is thicker there and touches the horizon at the poles. Shape is strategy. Polar approaches see a thinner workshop. Equatorial machines ride the generous drag, miss the shape, and you build in the wrong weather. Remember the shape, and you are still doing Penrose, only now as choreography in 3 dimensions. Waste heat becomes a signature problem. Any industrial harvest dumps unused energy somewhere. Infrared excess. Odd ionization. Strange timing in nearby gas. Natural jets already dump enormous power, so separating natural from engineered may be nearly impossible. That cuts both ways. Thieves can hide. Null searches cannot prove the physics unused. Absence of obvious megastructures is not absence of possibility. And the bigger question returns with teeth. If this is allowed, could someone already be doing it? Maybe the loudest jets are partly waste from drinking. Maybe owners of whirlpool vaults have better work than talking on our radio bands. Maybe every quiet sky is empty of thieves and full of unused batteries. You cannot prove those stories from Earth. You can feel why the question refuses to die once the physics is real. Difficulty keeps the dream from becoming propaganda. Controlling plasma in dragged spacetime is not a weekend project. Disks are turbulent, magnetized, radiating hells where flares cook probes and junk swallows surplus. A factory can feed the whole while milking it, dumping mass that grows the monster as you steal spin. Stewardship of a dangerous reservoir beats strip mining a cartoon asteroid. Success is surplus repeating through mess, not a montage. Magnetic towers kink, beams miss. Feedback turns harvest into chaos. Perfect animations are beginnerized. Thermodynamics and area rules still judge. Irreversible processes grow the untouchable flaw. Hawking radiation is another story for another night. A slow quantum leak over absurd timescales. Me sentence. Leave it. Here, the battery is classical spin. Keep the spoken scales honest, so all wear does not become a scam. Nearly a third of mass energy in extreme spin is the ideal reservoir size. 5th class boost on a classic mechanical encounter is one parable payoff. Continuous magnetic extraction over long times on huge masses is why real jets can look like cosmic engines. Mix those scales in one breathless claim, and you invent fake miracle. Keep them separate, and the wonder stays true. If 2 civilizations meet at one porch, the physics does not care who owns the surplus. Surplus draws hands the way rivers draw cities. Talk or war, alliance or silent. Crowding is the price of a working vault. Loneliness is the price of an empty one. No new science chapter required. Only the same battery attracting appetite. Go back to the childhood rule and break it carefully. Nothing escapes from inside the horizon. That sentence can stay. What cannot stay is the lazy sequel people attach to it. Therefore, black holes can never give. Penrose's point was never that light climbs out from the core. His point was that rotation creates a neighborhood outside the core where energy trades become possible. The horizon remains one way. The ergosphere is where the universe left a loophole beside the door. Why did this idea wait until the late 1960s? Because Kerr's spinning metric arrived in 1963, and the community needed time to feel what rotation really did to the neighborhood. Penrose walked through a door Kerr had just built. Without the whirlpool, the workshop does not exist. History here is not trivia. History is the reason the battery story could not be told honestly with only the quiet Schwarzschild picture from 1916. Feel the absurd scale of the prize. Single near-extremal Kerr hole can store extractable rotational energy comparable to a sizable fraction of its entire mass energy. Translate that into civilization language. You are not talking about a cute backup generator. You are talking about a vault that can outclass ordinary stellar budgets for minds patient enough to live beside danger. That is why advanced civilizations enter the sentence. The physics invites appetite at a scale stars struggle to match across deep time. Feel the absurd danger beside the prize. The same neighborhood that can pay can cook anything you send. Tides, radiation from any disk, timing windows that punish sloppiness, power plant parked on an ergosphere is not a clean ring in a vacuum render. It is industry inside a storm made of geometry and plasma. Advanced does not mean comfortable. Advanced means capable of working where comfort is. Return to the split in slow motion. The object is whole. Then it is two. For a heartbeat, their futures are almost the same. Then they diverge forever. No future is a debt the distant stars will record when it crosses. One future is a surplus climbing toward light you still recognize. Your eyes want a single story about falling. Instruments refuse. That refusal is the emotional core of Penrose. Not a slogan about batteries, a fork you can almost see. What does the whole feel like after the sip? Less fierce. Slightly, the spin parameter dropped, the extractable reservoir shrinks. Future maneuvers must retune because the porch geometry moved. Long extraction campaign is not one trick repeated forever. It is a moving target. Civilizations that treat the vault like a static tank will fail. Civilizations that retune as spin falls might last. Adaptation is physics here, not a soft slogan. Particle beams are one speculative costume. Fire streams into the ergosphere arranged so scattering or fragmentation produces negative energy components that fall in, while positive energy components return. Magnetic cages are another costume. Continuous rather than episodic, hybrids appear in speculative engineering talk. None of these are blueprints stamped for construction. All of them fail the test if they never arrange negative energy absorption. Without that absorption, you are not stealing spin. You are just making a mess near a hole and calling it progress. Nature may already prefer the magnetic costume. Force-free magnetospheres around Kerr holes let field lines thread the horizon, load with plasma, twist with rotation, and launch outward electromagnetic power that can accelerate jets. You do not need the full equation set to hold the picture. Spin wins the fields. Fields carry power out. The reservoir is rotation. The plume is what telescopes can see. That is why Blanford and Znajek sit on the same spine as Penrose, instead of in the tourist side quest. Sagittarius A* and Messier 87 are not decorations. They are existence proofs that spinning monsters live in galactic hearts, and that some of them drive extreme outflows. Shadow images made the dark cause public, yet images made the violence public. What remains private for most audiences is the battery reading. The possibility that part of what we watch is spin leaving home. Public pictures without that reading leave people with grave. The reading turns graves into engines with rules. Could someone already be doing it? Take the question seriously without turning this into a full catalogue of every alien paradox. If whirlpool vaults are usable, some minds might prefer building on them to chatting with us. That preference would not prove anything about cosmic silence by itself. It would only remind you that power shapes attention. Attention is not obligated to point at Earth. The physics makes the preference thinkable. Observation has not confirmed the builders. Thinkable is already enough to keep you awake. Could nobody be doing it? Also possible. Batteries can sit on you. Danger can outweigh appetite. Civilizations can die before they reach care engineering. Natural jets can run without owners. Empty searches can mean empty factory. The honest telling holds both doors open. Possibility is not occupancy. Occupancy is not impossibility. The bigger question stays alive because the equations do. How does spin get into a black hole in the first place? Collapse and mergers can leave a hole rotating. Disks can feed angular momentum for a time. The details vary across stellar mass engines and supermassive giants, but the point is stable. Real holes often arrive already spun up. The battery is not a rare museum piece. It is a common outcome of how compact objects form and grow in messy galaxies. Innermost orbits around spinning holes shift compared with quiet holes. Rotation can drag the region where stable circles tee inward or outward depending on whether you move with the spin or against it. That shift matters for disks and for any machine trying to aim beams near the porch. The same numbers that build the ergosphere also rewrite the traffic lanes outside it. Traffic lanes are still the battery story. Delivery routes to the theft. Polarized light near shadows can hint at magnetic structure coiled around spinning holes. Observations are hard and arguments continue. Still, The public now has images that force magnetic fields into the conversation beside mass and spin. Once fields are in the conversation, Blandford and Znayak stop sounding like optional theory and start sounding like a candidate reading of engines we already photograph. Stellar mass Kerr hole and a supermassive Kerr hole run the same ledger with different weather. Tides near a small hole can shred matter farther out. Giant like Sagittarius A star can let objects approach the porch with gentler tidal gradients across a human-scale body. Engineering hostility changes with mass, even when the Penrose rule does not. Scale changes the scar, it does not change the bookkeeping. There is a temptation to call the surplus free, because you did not burn chemical fuel to create it. Resist that temptation. The surplus is purchased by spin down. Purchased energy can still be revolutionary. It is not free, say stolen from rotation, say paid by the whole. Keep the wonder legal. When people say nothing escapes, they usually picture light trying to climb out from behind the horizon. Keep that picture, then place another picture beside it. An object that never needed to climb out from behind the horizon because part of it never crossed while it robbed the porch. 2 pictures. Me rule about the interior. No loophole about the exterior shell. Holding both is the literacy this topic demands. Net energy gain is the phrase that should still feel slightly illegal. Net means after you count what you sent in. Ein means the escapee beats that count. Illegal feeling is appropriate. Accounting is the cure. Spin down is the receipt. If a story ever gives you net gain without a receipt, leave. This story printed the receipt early and kept reprinting it. Bizarre is a fair word for the ergosphere. Bizarre does not mean vague. It means your everyday intuitions about stillness and energy fail in a mapped region with a name, a shape, and equation. Mapped weirdness is the best kind for storytelling. Unmapped weirdness becomes fog. Named shells keep you oriented. Drag it around at incredible speeds is the bodily hook. You do not need an orbital mechanics class to flinch when emptiness itself is forced to move. Flinching opens the door for the split. The split opens the door for spin down. Spin down opens the door for civilizations and for the question of owners. Sequence matters. The opening already knew the sequence. With the spin aiming near the edge, can use the drag as an ally. Against the spin aiming fights the river. Penrose captures Kerr because negative energy paths are not sprinkled uniformly. They live in pockets of trajectory space shaped by rotation. Aiming is geometry. Geometry is why any future engineers here would look more like celestial navigators than like people plugging cables into a dark socket. Dark sockets are the wrong metaphor. There are no terminals. There is a shell of band stillness and a horizon that takes depth. The work is arranging trajectories and fields, so the ledger moves the way you want. People who keep searching for a plug will not understand Penrose. People who learn to aim in a whirlpool might. Celestial navigation beside a Kerr hole includes time itself as weather. Clocks disagree across short distances. Communication lags twist. Coordinating a split across a team becomes a relativity problem, not only a rocketry problem. Advanced does not merely mean stronger material. It means operational fluency in curved spacetime as a workplace. Workplace fluency is a higher bar than knowing the slogan that black holes store power. Workplace fluency also means accepting loss rates that would shame planetary industries. Probes. D. Timing windows close. Flores erase months of setup. Civilization that cannot survive expensive failure will never finish a Kerr plant. Lethal workplaces demand that kind of culture from any mind that enters them. Lethal workplaces still attract appetite when the price density is high enough. That is the cold logic behind ultimate power source as a phrase. High price density plus long lifetime plus allowed physics equals attention from deep time hunger. Attention does not guarantee success. It guarantees attempts if minds exist at that horizon of capability. Attempts bring us back to the open question without forcing an answer. Distant observers define the energy that matters for net gain. Local measurements along a path can look ordinary, while the distant conserved quantity sits below zero. That split between local feel and distant score is the intellectual shock. Without it, negative energy sounds like nonsense. With it, Penrose becomes a lesson about who is keeping score. The stars keep score. The porch lets the score go strange. The horizon cashes the debt. The climber spends the credit far away. People ask where the energy was hiding. If the hole looks empty, it was not hiding in a glowing tank. It was locked in the space-time rotation itself. In the Kerr parameters, empty looking is part of the disguise. Disguise is why posters fail. Parameters are why physicists do not. Parameters change when you steal. Mass energy related to what distant observers assign can fall as spin falls. Within the rules of the mass formula that separates irreducible mass from extractable rotation, you do not need the formula on a chalkboard to use the idea. You need the separation. Separable means miniable in principle. Protected means flaw. Principle plus flaw is the adult battery. Respect for the horizon has to remain absolute even while you celebrate the porch. Celebrate too wildly, and listeners invent tunnels of convenience. The horizon is not negotiating. The porch is the only workshop this story uses. Every return to that boundary buys trust for the next escalation into civilizations and owners. On purpose matters. Natural magnetic extraction can run without a mind. Engineered extraction is the same ledger with intention and collectors. From a great distance, the plume might look similar. That similarity is the observational nightmare. And the narrative tension. If intention hides inside nature's costume, searches aimed only at metal rings will fail. If intention never arrives, nature's costume still teaches the ledger. Either way, you needed Penrose to read the costume. Collectors imply choices about wavelength and form. Do you catch ordered electromagnetic flux? Do you catch kinetic beams and break them? Do you stage intermediate plasma converters far enough from the worst flares? Arc choice is still the surplus problem downstream of the theft. Downstream engineering does not replace Penrose. It spends what Penrose made thinkable. Fingerprints might be statistical rather than spectacular. Population of holes with spins skewed low compared with formation models. Correlation between odd spin and odd jet duty cycles. Heat signature that refuses ordinary disk fits. Every one of those can fail as evident. Listing failure modes keeps the bigger question adult. Adult questions survive. Failed fingerprint. Formation models themselves are unfinished. That unfinishedness cuts against confident talk of odd spin as proof of mining. It also keeps prospecting honest. We do not yet know the full birth distribution of Kerr spin across whole masses. Until we do, extraction hypotheses must share the stage with birth and growth hypotheses. Shared stages are how you avoid founding a religion on a battery. Religion is the failure mode of awe. We says the porch exists, and the ledger allows theft. Religion says therefore owners surround us, and every jet is a factory. Possibility is wide, proof is narrow. Between them lies the tone that makes black holes plus civilizations plus extractable energy compelling without becoming a con. Skeptical friends are useful. They will say nothing escapes. You will say from behind the horizon. Yes, they will say then. How? They will say ergosphere outside, depth fragment in, surplus out, hole slows. They will say prove factories exist. You will say you are not proving factories. You are proving allowance. Allowance versus occupancy is the adult fork. Hold the fork, and you keep respect. Iron line profiles and X-rays from disks have been used as spin diagnostics. With all the usual fights about models, continuum fitting offers another route. Jet power correlations offer another. One are perfect. Together they still push the field toward treating spin as measurable weather, rather than unreachable metaphysics. Measurable weather is what prospectors need before they talk about batteries with a straight face. Low spin for a hole with a rich growth history would be a strange fossil if confirmed with confidence. Strange fossils invite explanations. Prolonged extraction, prolonged breaking by disks, measurement error, model failure. Extraction is only one hypothesis among several. Listing it without crowning it keeps the bigger question alive, without turning every odd data point into a conspiracy. Stolen from rotation is the clean phrase. It blocks the scam reading and keeps the wonder. Wonder survives. Precision. Audiences do not need infinite promises. They need a door that common sense said did not exist. then a map of the room behind the door, then an honest lock on how far the room goes. Penrose is the door, Kerr is the room. Irreducible mass is the lock. 1963 and 1969 are not trivia dates for exams. They mark when the quiet poster stopped being enough. Kerr made rotation exact. Penrose made rotation useful in a shocking way. Everything after. Jets as cousins, factories as speculation, owners as open questions. Borrows permission from those two steps. Finite campaigns of extraction change the meaning of ultimate. Ultimate across a season of cosmic time still ends. Endings do not make sources useless. Stars end too. Hitch ending would a deep time mind prefer to manage? Stellar fuel exhaustion or spin down of a Kerr volt with a geometric flaw? Preference is speculative. The options are not. Disk weather deserves one more concrete beat. Clumps fall, magnetic reconnection flashes, radiation spikes, time split, aimed through yesterday's calm corridor, can arrive into today's flare. Industry beside Kerr holes would look less like clockwork and more like sailing. Reading weather, aborting burns, losing hardware, trying again. Romance dies there. Respect begin. What escapes in the Penrose maneuver is not a message from inside the horizon. It is an object that robbed the porch and climbed while its partner paid the debt inward. Language matters. Escape from the ergosphere is allowed. Escape from behind the horizon is not. People who blur those sentences turn a precise idea into mush. So walk the spine once in plain language. Spinning black holes store extractable energy in rotation. The ergosphere is the bizarre dragged shell outside the horizon, where stillness tease and distant energy bookkeeping goes strange. Penrose showed a split that can send a debt inward and a surplus outward. Magnetic cousins may already light the sky. Irreducible mass flaws, endless theft. Factories are speculative, dangerous, and constrained. The opening question survives all of that. What if the most powerful power plant in the universe was not a star? You have now seen why that question is not a joke. Einstein's equations allow a path. Kerr geometry builds the porch. Penrose named the theft. Jets hint that nature drink. Advanced minds might try to drink with purpose, and somewhere in the dark, someone might already be doing it, or the batteries might still be waiting, unused, while we argue about stars. One last image. An object divides in the ergosphere. New fragment falls with a strange debt. Noir escapes heavier than it had any right to be. The black hole spins a little slower. No speech. Just geometry outvoting the childhood rule that nothing useful comes out. Carry that image. Carry the bigger question with it. Nothing escapes a black hole, right? Keep hearing that line. Let it itch. The horizon still wins for things that fully cross. The ergosphere still allows trades outside. Both true, both sharp. That fight in your head is healthier than a fake clean victory for either side. Before the glass goes quiet, stay with the ship a little longer on the same theft. Cancel motion relative to the distant stars. One more time and watch the attempt die in the drag. That failed hover is not a side detail for pilots. It is the body's introduction to Kerr. Once your instincts lose the definition of parked, you are ready to believe energy bookkeeping can lose its old manners too. Place first. Ledger second. Try to hover closer, still outside the horizon, and feel how the preferred twist grows. The farther in you push through the ergosphere, the less your childhood reference frame matters. Distant stars stop being a reliable ruler for stillness. The hole's rotation becomes the ruler. Any maneuver, scientific or industrial, that ignores that ruler will aim into empty fantasy instead of into negative energy paths that actually exist. What does a negative energy path look like from the ship's instrument? Not a glowing red warning painted on space trajectory whose conserved energy at infinity sits below zero while local motion still looks like matter doing matter things. That mismatch is easy to say and hard to feel. Feeling. It is why the split matters. You need a concrete object becoming two futures before the abstract ledger becomes instinct. Watch the dead fragment fall the last stretch toward the horizon. From the ship, redshift and timing play their usual cruel games near the edge. From the fragment's own side, the crossing can be uneventful in proper time. Both descriptions are allowed. What matters for Penrose is not the cinema of freezing images. What matters is that the captured path carried a distant debt, and that the hole's parameters adjust when that debt is absorbed. Watch the surplus fragment climb. It has to fight out of the drag, clear the shell, and reach regions where ordinary navigation works again. Instruments should show a gain relative to what the parent carried in. If they do not, the maneuver failed. Wrong aim, wrong split, wrong weather, wasted mass. Success is not guaranteed by saying Penrose out loud. Success is a narrow corridor in trajectory space. Narrow corridors are why magnetic continuous extraction attracts astrophysicists more than lonely rock splits. Fields can keep working the ledger without requiring a perfect pebble divorce every time. The rock split remains the cleanest teaching picture. The field picture may be how the universe actually caches spin into jets. Teaching pictures and sky engines can share a family without being identical twins. Family resemblance also explains why wave amplification belongs in the same conversation. When certain waves leave richer than they arrived, the whole has paid again. Different messenger, some a rotational reservoir. Once you accept multiple messengers, particles, waves, fields, the battery stops looking like a fragile parlor trick and starts looking like a property of Kerr spacetime that many channels can tap. Property of spacetime is a heavier claim than gadget. Gadgets can be unique invention. Properties invite repetition across the cosmos, wherever Kerr holds and the right conditions meet. Repetition is why the owner question becomes natural. If the property is widespread, appetite has many addresses. Many addresses do not prove many owners, they prove many opportunities. Opportunities still require fueling conditions for magnetic channels. Starving hole with little magnetic flux may sit with unused spin like a vault with a stuck door. A fed, magnetized, spinning hole may dump power whether or not a mind is present. That is why Messier 87 and Sagittarius A* teach different moods of the same object class. Loud engine versus quieter giant. Without leaving the battery story, quieter does not mean empty of physics. Quiet giants still drag space. Quiet giants still have ergospheres if they spin. Quiet giants can still, in principle, be robbed by carefully arranged processes. Loud jets are not required for the Penrose idea to be true. Loud jets are only the sky's most theatrical hint that spin can leave home. Theatrical hints shape culture. Culture shapes which engineering dreams get funded inside a civilization. Stars get funded in the imagination because they already shine. Black hole batteries need teaching before they compete for attention. Teaching is what you are in the middle of. After teaching, appetite can be rational instead of purely poetic. Rational appetite still collides with lethal boundary conditions. Radiation dose near an active disk can end a campaign before a single successful sip. Orbital debris and fallback matter can smash collectors. Timing jitter from turbulence can turn a planned negative energy capture into ordinary waste heat. The ledger remains beautiful. The neighborhood remains hostile. Beauty plus hostility is the true tone of Kerr industry. True tone also includes the floor. Every serious plan must ask how much of each sip thickens irreducible mass instead of delivering usable surplus. Plans that ignore the floor will overpromise. Plans that respect the floor will look conservative beside viral titles and more trustworthy beside Einstein's equation. Trust is how a channel survives. Trust is also how a civilization survives contact with a vault that can kill it. Contact with the vault changes the meaning of threat. Rotating black hole might not be a threat. It could be the ultimate power source. That line from the opening now carries scars. Threat and source are the same object seen at different distances of understanding. Up close without literacy. Threat win. Up close with literacy. Source becomes thinkable. Thinkable is not safe. Thinkable is sharper than safe. Sharper questions follow. If someone is already doing it, would we recognize the waste? If nobody is, are we early for that kind of industry? Or are we alone in wanting it? Or is the danger filter stronger than the prize? Arc branch stays inside the battery story. None require a tour of every cosmic mystery. Depth, not width. Depth means returning to the receipt again at the end. Extra energy does not come from nowhere. It comes from the black holes own rotation. The hole spins down, the escapee gains. That trade is the entire engine under every later dream about civilizations and owners. If you remember only the dreams, you were entertained. If you remember the trade, you understood enough to teach it. Try. Most powerful plant might not be a star. Rotating holes have a dragged shell called the ergosphere. An object can split there, so one piece falls with a distant debt, and the other leads richer. The whole pays from spin. Fields may do related work as jets. Laws and weather limit fantasy. Someone might already harvest. Unknown. If those lines come out of your mouth clean, the night worked. If they come out mushy, energy comes out of black holes somehow. Put the shell back, put the split back, put the spin down back. Mush cannot survive a skeptical friend. Precision can. Precision is not the enemy of the viral opening you heard. Precision is what makes that opening honest enough to build a long walk on. The long walk ends where it began. Heavier. What if the most powerful power plant in the universe was not a star? What if an advanced civilization could steal energy directly from a spinning black hole? It sounded impossible. Nothing escapes, right? Surprisingly, that is not entirely true. Around every rotating black hole, the ergosphere waits. Penrose showed the theft. Bin pays. Jets may already drink. Factories remain speculation under constraint. Wonders remain an open question hanging over a real sky. There is still room on their spine for the quiet details that make the theft feel built instead of sketched. Start with the stationary limit, the outer skin of the ergosphere, where the last hover relative to infinity Ds. Cross it in your mind, and every remaining path shares the hole's rotation. That is not drama language. That is the geometric fact that turns a black circle into a machine shop with a forbidden stillness rule. Inside that shop, the shape is not a perfect sphere. The ergosphere bulges at the equator and pinches toward the poles for a standard Kerr hole. An equatorial ring of collectors would sit in the thickest workshop. Polar stack would sit where the porch is stingiest. Anyone who draws a Dyson-style cartoon as a clean sphere around a Kerr hole without thinking about that bulge is decorating, not engineering. Engineering also cares which way the hole spins relative to the disk. Linked spin and disk can build one kind of magnetic weather. Misaligned systems can twist fields into messier geometries and change how jets launch. Penrose's particle parable does not need a disk at all. Real sky engines usually do. The parable teaches the ledger. The disk teaches why the ledger's magnetic cousins live in chaos. Chaos is why irreversible taxes appear even when the idea is clean. Every realistic capture dumps some order into horizon area growth. You cannot claw back. The irreducible mass rises. The miniable fraction falls faster than a reversible dream promised. Recent studies of repeated mechanical extractions underline how nonlinear and unfriendly that bookkeeping can be. The battery is real. The battery is also a harsh accountant. Harsh accountants still allow fortunes. Nearly a third of mass energy in extreme spin is a fortune by any civilizational standard. Even a smaller fraction on a fast but non-extremal hole can dwarf what a species scrapes from planetary chemistry. The comparison is the point of bringing advanced civilizations into the opening, not prophecy. Scale makes the question about owners stop sounding like idle sci-fi and start sounding like a consequence of allowed physics. Consequence thinking has a trap. The trap is leaping from allowed to populated without evidence. Keep the leap visible as a leap. Allowed is Einstein plus Kerr plus Penrose plus magnetic cousins. Populated is a claim about minds we have not confirmed. The opening asked the populated question honestly as a question. The body kept it from hardening into a myth. Myth wants every jet to be a factory. Honesty wants every jet to be a possible cousin of Penrose that might be wholly natural. Possible cousin is already enormous. Wholly natural still teaches you how to read spin as power. Reading spin as power is the literacy upgrade. Factories would only be the industrial sequel. Industrial sequels need materials that survive gradients, fields that stay coherent, and navigation that treats space-time curvature as a workplace. They need cooling strategies for waste heat. They need abort criteria when flares rise. They need patience measured in timescales that embarrass human institution. That list is not meant to kill the dream. It is meant to price it. Priced dreams are the only ones worth calling ultimate with a straight face. Ultimate, again, cannot mean infinite. Ultimate can mean unmatched among known options for deep time hunger under known physics. Stars compete, Kerr vaults compete. Other schemes may compete someday. Ranking options is what advanced minds would do. Ranking is also what you should live with, not a slogan that black holes are free gas stations. Free was never the right word. Extractable from rotation under constraints was. The opening avoided free and used steal, a better verb, because steal implies a victim. The victim is the whole spin. Victims can be robbed only while they still have something to lose. Spin down is the victim getting poorer. That moral shape of the accounting is oddly clarifying. No victim, no theft, no surplus. Surplus arrives far away as energy a civilization can try to use. Sealfulness after escape is its own engineering chain. Conversion, storage, transport, loss. That chain sits downstream of Penrose and should not be confused with Penrose. Confusing them produces people who think the hard part is only the split. The hard part is the split plus the weather, plus the floor, plus everything after the climber clears the shell. After the climber clears, the hole is slightly less fierce, and the porch is slightly thinner. The next attempt faces a different machine. Campaigns are histories written into Kerr parameters. Histories mean strategy. Strategy means mind. Minds bring us back to the bigger question without forcing an answer. If harvesting is possible, could someone already be doing it? Possible remains yes, already remains unknown. Unknown is a legal ending for a science narration that respects evidence. Legal endings can still haunt. They should. Sky full of unused vaults is haunting. Sky full of hidden factories is haunting. Sky full of natural jets teaching the ledger to no one in particular is haunting too. Pick your haunting. Keep the mechanism last time. Playing, rotating black hole, ergosphere, dragged space, split, negative energy at infinity, absorb, surplus, escape, spin down, optional magnetic, continuous cousins, optional industrial scaffolding, hard floor, hard weather, open question about owners. That is the entire night. Everything else was you standing close enough to fool it. More corridor in the same building before you leave. Think about what a failed Penrose attempt teaches. Mass thrown into the ergosphere without a useful split can simply feed the hole, grow its mass, and leave you poorer. Failure is not neutral. Failure can enlarge the monster you meant to rob. That asymmetry is why patience and aiming matter more than enthusiasm. Enthusiasm without aiming is how vaults eat factories, if they ever exist, would likely be judged by duty cycle. How often surplus clears the shell versus how often hardware dies. Low duty cycle can still win across deep time if the prize per success is enormous. Deep time is the hidden character in the advanced civilization sentence. Without deep time, Kerr industry looks insane. With deep time, insane becomes optional. Optional still depends on spin supply. Hole born slow stays, a weak battery. Hole spun up by collapse or merger, then magnetized by a disk, becomes interesting. Interesting is a prospector's word. Prospectors map spin, flux, and weather. The way earlier ages mapped rivers. Rivers made cities. Kerr maps would make vaults, or make graveyards of attempts. Both outcomes fit the physics. Both outcomes also fit the opening's emotional range. Impossible. Surprisingly not entirely true. Almost science fiction. Real physics. Ultimate power source. Already doing it. That arc only works if the middle stays on theft from rotation instead of wandering into unrelated mysteries. The middle stayed on theft from rotation. This walk tried to add rooms instead of empty adjectives. Rooms about Kerr, the porch, the split, the receipt, the cousins, the floor, the weather, the owners. If a paragraph did not open a room, it did not belong. If a room opened, it should teach something you can retell. Retellability is the test at the end. Retell this. What if the most powerful power plant in the universe was not a star around a rotating black hole, Space is dragged in an ergosphere. Penrose showed that a split there can send a debt into the hole and let surplus escape, paid by spin down. Magnetic fields may do related work as jets. You cannot drink forever. Irreducible mass floors the vault. Disks and cars punish impatience. Someone in the universe might already be harvesting. All the batteries might still be waiting. Real physics, open ending. Stand with the distant ledger one last careful moment. Energy at infinity is not a mystical second kind of energy. It is the conserved quantity associated with time symmetry in a stationary spacetime, evaluated on a path. In Kerr, that quantity can be negative inside the ergosphere for some trajectories. Capture them and the whole adjusts. Escape the complementary path and surplus reaches the far stars. Once that sentence is clear, negative energy stops sounding like witchcraft and starts sounding like bookkeeping with teeth. Bookkeeping with teeth is also why steel works better than free. As a verb in the opening, steel names the transfer. Free hides the victim. The hole's rotation is the victim. As the victim weakens, the porch shrinks, and the campaign must change. That living change is what makes Kerr industry a story instead of a static poster of rings around a circle. If you came wanting infinite free energy, leave with a correction. If you came wanting an impossible door that turns out to be real, leave with the ergosphere, the split, the spin down, the jets, the floor, and the owner question still breathing. That is enough. That is the whole point of asking whether the most powerful power plant in the universe might not be a star. And if the owner question still will not leave you alone, good, let it sit beside every jet image and every quiet galactic center for the rest of your life, not as proof, as a consequence of knowing the porch exists. Knowing is the minimum. Building is optional. Occupying is unknown. The physics ends at knowing and allowance. Everything beyond that is hunger written onto a real sky. Somewhere in that sky, spin is being stored whether we watch or not. Somewhere, an ergosphere is dragging space whether we name it or not. Somewhere, the ledger Penrose wrote down is available to nature and, in principle, to minds. Available is not the same as used. Used is not the same as proven to us. Available is already enough to change how the dark looks when you stare at it. And once the dark looks different, the childhood rule never sits as comfortably again. That discomfort is the point of this whole walk through the spinning dark. Open endings haunt longer than closed myths. Carry the haunt, carry the mechanism, carry the receipt. The next black hole image you see should look less like a pure grave and more like a maybe engine with rules. Rules are what make wonder durable. Durable wonder is what this topic always had once the opening became a specific theft with a name. Black holes, advanced civilizations, and energy stolen from spin. Thank you very much for watching.